Yeah, hello. What's good, everybody? It's your boy Romanpuss here with your one and only Egghead Sanji guide. The big monstrous trio, the left hand of the future king of the pirates. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he's the top most grossing income revenue on feetfinder.com. But let's be real, Sanji he got them legs. He got them feet. He does it all. Now, this character is a legendary character. Very useful, very strong defender. Finally, it feels good to have something that puts an ultra stop to Dark Roger. So, as always, if you guys have not familiarized yourself with his skills and traits, please do so now, as I'm not directly going into them in this video. So, without further ado, we're going to jump into know everything there is to know about Egghead Sanji. So, let's dive in. First things first is the stat recommendations. Now, he is the very first defender to have his skills scale off of defense. So this means you absolutely do not have any need for building attack stats on your medals. I've been waiting years for this to be a thing. I don't think someone like Jabra even needed it. It's kind of unfortunate that they needed to put Jabra in to beat a snake, but it is what it is. So we have Sanji, both of his skills scale off of defense. You get a 70% defense buff. It's huge. You only need HP and defense to build. So I would go 70% HP, 70% defense with an extra 300 flat defense if you can and afford that and have 18% traits to work with. Otherwise, max out defense. That's your priority when you're playing Sanji. So easy way to build him. I like he's not complicated. You don't really need to question anything. It's just go with that route. Now let's talk about a little bit of tips and strategy. First things up, your skill 2 has a large range, so make sure you use that. You can basically sit from one flag and generally be in range to hit someone from the next flag over from you with your skill 2 under most circumstances. It actually goes pretty far. So make sure you can use that. You can jump over water, you can jump over ledges. I'm pretty sure you can even jump over Sabaody. You just gotta make sure they're close enough to the edge, like right by the bubble. So make sure you utilize that. Also, you can use your skill 1 to tank certain abilities. Hopefully enemies hit you and you can get stacked. So when people hit you or your teammates, you get defense stacks by 3%. So in total, I'm just going to give you the calculation now. It takes 24 hits to get your max defenses. So you have 70% divided by 3 gives you basically 24. It's 23 and some change, but it has to be 24 to top it off. Anyways, that is actually a really slow way to stack and actually takes a while. So don't be surprised when at first you're not really hitting crazily, but if you can get your defense stacks up and your allies keep getting hit, you're going to be cooking. So make sure you use skill 1 to be a little extra tankier, so because it gives you damage reduction since you don't have defense buffs right there. Survive and then thrive later. Now remember, that is your heal and it heals initially on hit. It does not continually heal, so you have to be careful on whether you want to use that to tank a big hit or whether you want to use it to just heal up after tanking a big hit. There's kind of options. There's things like fighting Green Roger can be a little bit tricky. We'll get into that a little bit later on. Next, realize how long it takes you to get fully stacked. As I said, remember, it's a long process. It's actually 24 hits is a lot more than you think, unless you're fighting multi-hitters like Rob Lucci or Jabra. Those people will stack you almost immediately, but other people like Roger, like a green Goldie Roger, green attacker, will take a while, and he can actually kill you before you get your stacks up. So just be careful of that when you're fighting. You can push down flags when you're stacked, and Sanji actually does a lot of damage. So things to people like S-Snake, you can actually wail on, and if she tries to fight you on your flag, like, you don't even have to worry about it, but you actually hit pretty hard. You have that fat defense buff. 70% is the equivalent of a 70% attack buff, which means you can put a hurting on a lot of people unless they have large amounts of damage reduction. So just keep an eye out for that. Realize you can do that. And then if you're fighting runners, remember, runners are and should be scared of you because they get a 50% damage increase on top of, if you're fully stacked, you have 70% defense buff, which is a 70% attack buff, which is a lot of damage to take from a person. Now let's dive into the pros, some of which I've already mentioned so far. You have your 70% defense buff, aka 70% attack buff. Then you have defense scaling abilities. I already went over this. You're easy to build, relatively simple, don't have to worry about that. You have some heals on you, which is great for sustaining. You're immune to status effects while you're on your flag. You have high damage skills. You have knockbacks. You're immune to knockbacks, and you're a runner destroyer. These are all huge and fantastic things that defenders really truly need. I think defenders should be the stopper to runners, and then attackers are kind of just the stopper to defenders. So kind of the cycle of life. And in a way, runners are kind of indirectly a stopper to attackers because they can just keep taking flags. So it works that way. So that's kind of all the pros. Sanji has a bunch of things going for him. I know now there's actually a fat list of kind of like back and forths. I have max level Sanji. He's very fun. I think he's really enjoyable, and he actually stops a lot of people in the meta right now. There are counters. People just don't play them. Cons. What are the cons? What makes him bad? So you are weak without your buffs. Just remember, if there's heavy hitting people at the very beginning, you're going to struggle. As I said, Green Roger can be very difficult. Even people who are multi-hitters like Jabra, if they land that skill 2, it's a one-shotting skill. You don't want to hold your skill 1 in front of that because it will one-shot you. You need to be careful with that. Be very mindful, very considerate, very demure. So green attackers are your biggest problem. Otherwise, people who ignore defense can also be a problem. You also don't have any resistances to percentage damages. So only when you're in your skill 1 really is the only thing that's going to save you. So watch out for percentage damages. Those things can hurt a lot and will shred you. All right, let's talk about who Sanji beats. Honestly, a lot of people. So you have Dark Uta is kind of who you're made to do well against. You have Lucci in runner form only. I do want to mention that. You have to if you hit him in runner form, you'll basically one-shot Rob Lucci. If he's in attacker form, it's a completely different story. You can one-shot people. You can one-shot people like Bluno. Now, you can hit Bluno and potentially kill him, depending on people's support percentages. You can potentially kill him and keep him from taking your flag. But if you can't, or you're unsure, it's better to just let Bluno take your flag. Then, as soon as he takes your flag, press skill 2 on him, and you'll basically one-shot him. So that way you don't even have to worry about it. You can just one-shot him, take your flag back, and you're good to go. So it's just an insta-kill. It works. It's fine. I honestly, sometimes 9 times out of 10 is probably going to be the better route to go. And on top of that, you just kind of destroy a lot of different runners because you do fat damage. You can basically one-shot most of them. So that's kind of who you counter and who you're strong against. Moving on to the Sanji counters, he does have a few. I've mentioned Green Roger. I've mentioned Jabra, and then there's attacker form Lucci can be very problematic. These units have the ability to one-shot you with certain skills. Lucci kind of just withers you down and shreds you because he has the ability to ignore defense, and he can just keep healing, and you can't really do enough damage to him off your flag to get him, and he can give you apply his status effect that prevents you from using your skill 1 if you're off your flag because it's a status effect. So you have to watch out for that. Things like that will actually really hurt you. Rob Lucci is a very tricky fight. In general, your only option is to try and run and hope you have an ally who can fight him and kill him. That's pretty much your best bet. Gear 5 also poses a problem because he ignores defense and actually comes with a good amount of damage increase as well. So watch out for Gear 5. And then lastly is percentage damage dealers, because those will actually hurt a lot unless you're using skill 1. But percentage damage dealers can hurt a lot because they'll just shred you down. So I've had it happen. Just be careful of that. Last but not least is our medal recommendations. What are the medals you want to run? Honestly, I think this top set, lots of people say this top set I think is fantastic. If you go to the generic Kaido set, I think it's fantastic too. But if you want to mix in either the Whitebeard or that Wildfire medal, those are options as well. You can pick and choose between those. I just threw like all 4 of those medals right there. The left 3 is definitely going to give you insane amounts of skill 1 cooldown because you'll get 6% skill 1 cooldown on any time anyone hits you specifically. So that's an option. Less tags, but it's an option there. Next one is your high damage reduction. You have the annul set. It comes with 20% damage reduction if you're alone in your flag, and if you're down in flags, that can be pretty good. And it comes with a little extra skill 1 passive cooldown while you're just sitting on your flag. Then you have the Dressrosa one, kind of becoming outdated, but it's an option. The Bartolomeo, damage increase, but skill 2, you don't really need skill 2 because you get skill 2 cooldown every time someone hits you. I think you get 3% as well. And lastly, I threw the Seraphims on there, and you can throw S-Shark probably in there as well. Mix and match Seraphims, because I assume if you're summoning on this banner, you're potentially going to have S-Shark, which could give you his medal, and then there's S-Snake medals out and about at the time of this video and who's showing up in the meta. They're options, is all I'm saying. Now, there's wide variety. Things you want to prioritize are obviously skill 1 cooldown. I really do think the top set is kind of the main go-to. You really have no reason to use any other set for this because Sanji really thrives off that skill 1. So you want to make sure you have that. Gives you heals. As I said, full HP, full defense. It's going to set you up and you're going to be thriving. So that is our overall Sanji guide video. I hope you guys learned something. Hopefully this was useful for you. Sanji's a fantastic unit at the time of this video. We'll see how he gets scaled against and how the game power creeps from here. But hopefully you found this helpful. If you guys did enjoy, be sure to like, follow, subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Check me out on Twitch, Twitter, Discord as well. I'm over on those talking about random other stuff and playing some other games and stuff too. So hope you guys enjoy. Have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you on the next one. Yeah, hurley! Peace, beautiful people.